Welcome back, folks. Update patch 9.20 has been released for the SuperTest server, and we got this quick preview or summary of all the changes on the main webpage. Now, as expected, the general patch notes got quickly leaked afterwards, so I took some time, crawled out of my hole, translated the Russian, and gathered up the tidbits of info. So let's go over the preview and then cross-reference with the actual details from the actual patch notes. So before we get started, it's all preliminary, so it's very subject to change, and it's a wall of text, so I'll try not to go over everything. So pause the video to read through the stuff on the screen. I'll give you guys ample time to pause, and I'll try to make it as entertaining as I possibly can. It's like eating cardboard, so a bunch of stats, bunch of changes. I'll try to add a few jokes and my insight and some profanity. I don't know. So let's get started. But patch 9.20 should be focused on stun effect change for the algorithm, so a little bit better math in calculation of the stun effect. Continued tech tree revision, so basically tank buffs and nerfs. Adding a 30 versus 30 scenario to random battle mode, or Q. So this is the half of frontline mini mode. So this is the one with the castle, not with the one with the Grand Canyon. But it's not the 9-kilometer square map of Normandy invasion. Not that one. So it's like a 30 versus 30 random battle mode. And yeah, it's interesting. Not as interesting as the actual frontline mode, but it's a new map, so I'll take it. And finally, 9 new Chinese tank destroyers. We are never going to sell the M46A2E1 or the Panzer 5/4, the Panther hull with the Panzer Force turret. Psych! We are never going to sell the Type 62. We are never going to sell the E25. Psych, psych, psych. These vehicles will be Chinese server exclusive. Psych. It's funny. I mean, it hasn't been like even 2 weeks since the Chinese servers got them. And they're now thinking about it, adding it to the game. I mean, it is proprietary information, so there are a lot of effort, a lot of work made into these vehicles. So it would be stupid to keep it on one server only one server exclusive, but it's ending up like the 59 Patton or the 121B or the T44-100 or the WZ-111. So like the 59 Patton, it's historically non-existent. It doesn't ever exist. There's no such vehicle, but what the hell, Frankenstein monster, right? So whatever. So vehicle rebalance. Now this is going to be a larger chunk, one of the biggest chunk of this patch. So there is a timestamp to jump forward towards the vehicle rebalance, the buffs and nerfs, and analyzation and discussion and stuff. But yeah, it's going to take up a lot of the video. It's cardboard, so eating cardboard takes a lot of time, but timestamp is in the description of the video to skip forward. For artillery, a little bit better math or calculation of the stun, so pause the video to read through, but originally you can block some of the stun with fences or smaller walls. So now it's a little bit better calculation, I guess, but kind of funny. Oh well. Well, it's a little bit more accurate, I guess, but still, the stun effect, you know, we already talked about this during the sandbox like 7 months ago, so beating a dead horse. But new Chinese tank destroyers, because why not? So funny enough, it says, we know this is something you've been asking for. The Russian servers have been asking for, not the other servers like EU or the North American server mostly, and we're excited to make them available for all the players. So yes, we're talking about the line that rolled out on the Chinese servers a few months ago. This is the trailer for the Chinese tank destroyers. So they just got this. They got this on July 18th. If my freaking internet would work. But as you can see right here with this little picture. Now we'll go back towards when it explodes with the audio, but they just got this on July 18th. Work, you stupid video. Alright, oh, we'll wait. But there's a new scenario for random battle mode. So this is the 1.4 kilometer by 1.4 kilometer map, the castle map, 30 versus 30, mini frontline mode. So this is basically a larger random battle mode queue. So it's like a checkbox for the encounter / assault, but you can versus like a lot of players with the random battle mode. Also, what's interesting is that there are explosions happening in the background. Wonderful. But as you can see, they got this patch July 18th with the Chinese tank destroyers on the Chinese server. A few months. Sure, whatever. Back to the frontline mode. So frontline mini, this is the 30 versus 30, tier 10 vehicles only, 15 minutes, capture the enemy base or destroy all enemy players, similar to any other random battle mode queue. But what's interesting is you will get, for prizes and achievements and statistics, you will be able to get bonds. So this is preliminary, but in the patch notes, bonds. What? It's a slap in the face for ranked battle mode players. But hell, I like this because the average player could get bonds to get advanced equipment without playing ranked battle mode. But then again, it's still tier 10 only. So you'll still need a tier 10 vehicle to grind, but it's not as consistent. You will not always get into this mode to play with 30 versus 30. So I don't know, but it's a little bit more easier for players to get bonds. But why don't you just add bonds to random battle mode so everybody could get bonds if they're playing tier 10 vehicles? That would be great. That will give you a objective to get tier 10 vehicles so you can grind bonds to get advanced equipments. So basically meaning that ranked battle mode is useless. Mostly. Also, what I think that's very interesting with this thing is it's considered as a random battle mode queue. So would personal missions be affected by this? Like medium tank number 15 getting 4,000 damage on tank destroyers. You have 30 players on the enemy team. You will obviously face a little bit more tank destroyers, and therefore you will have an easier time with personal missions like heavy tank or tank destroyer. Not artillery, a little bit rough, or some of the middle missions for artillery, maybe, but still, that would be great. So don't tell the developers, but it may work towards your favor with personal missions in this big mode because larger HP pool, more stuff to shoot at or spot or stun. So that would be great. So Hall of Fame has been added to the game client. It's the same as on the main website, so whatever. HD remodels. So Bat.Chat, it's been a long time. Where is the STB? Don't know. Churchill 3. The Chinese Stuart. The M12, I believe. This is the tier 7 American artillery. I think. Matilda Black Prince. Oh, wait. This thing gets preferential matchmaking, right? Please, it doesn't see tier 7s. I don't think it sees tier 7s. Oh, this is the Panzer 3A. Looks like a Panzer 3A. The captured French Panzer Kampfwagen 38H or something. The Russian artillery Su-12 or Su-16, one of the which, or 26. That's a T-26 chassis, so Su-26. Su large ass 12, I think. This is a special vehicle, so this is the T-44-85, which is a moderator only T-44 at tier 7, so interesting. It's getting an HD model, but nobody has it. T-69, classic. It has the 75mm or 76mm. This is not the 90mm autoloader because of the muzzle brake, I can tell. So this is the same as the T-71. This is a stock gun. Alright, and the VK3001D. Yep, that's the predecessor to the Leopard. But remove the bug terrain that allows entry to places that weren't intended. So no more boosting on the following maps. Yes! Yes! I like it a lot. Well, it's mostly for idiots that think they could boost with slow ass vehicles. So I don't know about boosting, but it's going back to the HD remodel. Like, we're going to fix boosting once HD map models are converted for all the maps. You just fixed everything without the HD remodel of the maps. Just add rocks to like the entrances of the stuff. So just give us more maps. In the end, just give us more maps. Like standard def version. We don't need HD version of the maps. Just give us more maps for us to shoot on, please. Right. New vehicles added. So nothing new on the preview page, but new vehicles. Chinese server exclusive, the Waffenträger off E100P. So I don't know if it's real or fake news or whatever, but a lot of the blog sites, a lot of the news posting sites are posting this vehicle added as a Chinese server exclusive. Now, I don't know if it's tier 8 premium or tier 10 premium. It could be tier 10 premium, but there are a few rumors about the images of this vehicle. So taking a look at this image right here, this was originally posted as the upcoming Waffenträger premium tank, mostly at tier 8. So it looks like a Grill 15 with a GW Panther's gun shield and maybe a 128, but the original picture for this vehicle was from this picture right here. So this is the original picture with the vehicle in the back, and this is actually from World of Tank Blitz. So it's not exactly from the actual main website, but I don't know why people are thinking that the Waffenträger off E100 will be becoming a, I don't know, premium tier 8 or tier 10, but it is the Chinese server, so don't know what kind of clown fiesta is going on there, so it's crazy. But this is not an off E100 chassis, it's a off Panther chassis, so it's not likely this vehicle. Also, funny enough, the GW Panther is also considered as a Grill 15 because it's a 150mm on a Panther chassis, so technically it's also the Grill 15. So if you search up Grill 15, you will see the GW Panther, but small fun fact. And the Chinese tank destroyers for EU, North America, and Asian servers. And the super testers are testing the T-44 lightweight, which is basically a light tank version of the T-44, as opposed to the T-54 with the T-54 lightweight, but it's a premium tier 8 Russian light tank. Already talked about this. Nothing interesting, but it's slightly better than the LTTB in terms of armor, but hey. So let's jump to the actual stats of all the tanks and the rebuffs or buffs and nerfs. But this is going to be a large chunk of the video. So for the rest of the video, it's mostly me just blabbering on about tank buffs and nerfs. But let's start it. Let's get started with the Russian tanks. So added the T-44 lightweight, yada yada. T-54 model 1945, first prototype, premium tier 8 Russian medium tank. Gets a accuracy buff, dispersion buff. So better aim time from 2.4 seconds to 2.2, which is pretty good. But view range got increased by 20 meters. That's great. Turret armor increased. 100mm main gun got penetration buffed by 7mm, and APCR shell gets buffed, so the go ammo gets buffed. Better gun depression to 7 degrees now. Interesting. And finally, the grand of the grand, ammo count increased 34 rounds to 56. Thank God, that's a godsend. The original complaint I had with this vehicle is it has only 34 rounds of 100mm that does 240 alpha or so. So basically the potential damage of this vehicle is really low, and therefore you run out of shells a lot of the time. So that's a big buff. But let's take a look at the armor buff. So here is the original preview, initial stats, but buffing the view range, the turret armor, and the aim time. But here is the collision model. So old model has the turret front at 180, so it might bounce a few medium caliber guns like the 90mm, the 88 at tier 8, but it's not that great of a turret. It is rounded, but but now it's 200mm, so it's rounded a little bit better. But you do have 7 degrees of gun depression, small cupola or commander hatch for the commander, so you could go hull down with 7 degrees of gun depression, and it's a little bit more accurate and better view range now. That's a plus. That's a big plus. T-44 100, T-44 100P. So the 100P is the Russian version because they have a original cable event. So you buy a service from a cable company, you'll get this vehicle. If you cancel the subscription, they take away the vehicle. So that's the Russian original exclusive T-44 100, but afterwards all the servers get it. So same buff for both vehicles. So penetration buff, turret armor buff, dispersion buff, and aim time buff, reload buff. So better gun now. And we got this vehicle for free last year for the T-44 100 marathon. So that was nice. That was about a year ago, I believe. Last fall, around August or September. So pretty nice, but let's take a look at the armor buff. So T-44, we have a bunch of those. Well, let's take a look at the normal T-44 as well. So for the normal T-44, dispersion buff with the hull traverse and movement. The D25T variant, the 122 got buffed, better accuracy, a lot better DPM. So 19.2 seconds to 15.2, 4 seconds shaved off. This gun was useless on the T-44. Now it's questionable. But still, you would just use the 100mm. Nobody used the 122 on this vehicle unless you're new and willing to use gold shell, but so they buffed the 100mm as well. That's good for both the turrets, and buffed the turret armor. Don't know what they're talking about for the hull armor, but hey, and buffed the penetration. So here is the T-44 and the T-44 100. So originally for the turret, it was about 120, 150 at the front. Now it's about 190, 200. So that's pretty decent. Slightly bouncy cheeks now to 338. That's pretty nice. So here is the old collision model. So 120 for the turret cheeks and about 120 for the mantlet. But now it's 190 at the center, 130 for the cheeks. So it's a little bit more consistent, but it does not have the 7 degrees of gun depression like the T-54 model 1945. So, alright. And we're jumping to the T-54. So T-54 has two guns. One gun has pretty good penetration, 220, so similar to the E50 or the M46 Patton, but has crappy accuracy. The other gun has pretty good DPM, but no penetration, about 200mm. So they buffed the DPM of the gun that has a lot of DPM, and they nerfed the DPM of the gun that has the penetration. So the sniping gun with the penetration is now more accurate. So they buffed the accuracy from 0.39 to 0.33, and they nerfed the accuracy of the DPM gun from 0.04, 0.35 to 0.39. So basically exaggerating the aspect or skill for these guns. So if you're playing with a DPM gun, play more close range brawling DPM and spamming high explosive anti-tank rounds. Or if you're playing the sniping gun, you better snipe your ass because the DPM sucks. So I don't know, but it's a close range fighter vehicle. They buffed the armor of the vehicle, the T-54. So they buffed the hull and turret armor and buffed the stock gun penetration, similar to the T-44 upgraded gun, the stock gun. But they buffed the gun depression of the DPM 100mm from 5 degrees to 6 degrees, similar to the Object 140. So play this vehicle more like the Object 140. But I mean, T-54s are known for high explosive anti-tank shells, so you get more DPM, but you're not as accurate. But with a good female crew and Sisterhood of Steel or Snapshot or Smooth Ride, I think you could reduce this accuracy to 0.36 about, or with food that's 0.35. So currently I have 0.31 with the current stats, but that's for the T-54. Interesting, huh? So let's take a look at the armor buff. But here are the changes for their guns. So one's for the 100mm with the accuracy, the other one's for the DPM. So 7.4 seconds of reload, and you can shave that down to like 6.5. So like 3,300 DPM or something. Ugh. But as for the armor, originally it was about 200mm to 240 for the turret. Now it's 240 to about 300mm at the front. So for the collision model, it's 200mm originally, 180 for the cheeks, 150-ish. Now it's 240 and 220, 271. So you will be more reliably bouncing high caliber guns like German 128s or American NATO 120s, because they have about 250mm of pin and you have a rounding of the 240, so it's a lot more effective. Holy crap, that's a strong turret. That's a real strong turret, but can't complain much. I mean, it is the king, one of the king of tier 9 mediums. The other one is the E50. So, it would be pretty insane, I mean, to have a gun depression and turret armor, but the side armor is 107 originally, now it's 86, so you don't usually rely on the side of the turret, so nothing to really talk about there, but it's pretty decent. Object 140, they increased the turret roof armor, so they want to diversify the Object 140 from the T62A. Just increase the turret armor roof for the Object 140. That's not diversifying your portfolio, what? That's the same stuff, that's just buffing the Object 140 even more in comparison to the T62A. I don't know, but for the T103 tank destroyer, it's now correctly displaying the actual engine power of the engine for 900 horsepower. Originally, it was 1000, but it was incorrect, so okay. It's not exactly a nerf, but whatever. IS-7. So they added a new engine for the IS-7. Basically, supposed to be 19 horsepower per ton ratio. So I calculated the stats to be about 1300 horsepower. So it's going to be a lot faster than before. Supposedly, comparing it to the WZ-111-5A or the Object 260. So basically power creeping the Object 260. It has a little bit better accuracy, faster aim time by 0.2, and a little bit more health to 2400. Interesting. That's really interesting. This health is close to the FV215B because it needs more health due to the lack of armor for the hull. But the IS-7 is pretty decent for the turret or for the hull and very good for the turret. So still has a large lower plate, but the hull is stronger than the WZ-111-5A, and the 111-5A has about 2250, I think. So yeah, take more punishment, Russian bias. But moving on to the next vehicle, the ISU-152, one of my favorites, but basically, long story short, they removed the BL-10, the legendary long ass gun. They took that away, so they gave you a new 152, but it has only 260mm of pen, and gold shell is also nerfed, but it's gold shell, so it got shaved down from 286mm of penetration to 260. So why do I hate this? Well, it's a passive buff to vehicles like the Chrysler K, the VK101 Mammut. So yeah, you're basically buffing super heavy large ass vehicles. Passive buffs, especially Defender, the Object 252U or the Chrysler K. So it is one of those vehicles at tier 8 alone that could penetrate vehicles like OP-ass premium tanks. And you nerf the penetration. Why are you doing this? They buffed the health, sure, and they reduced the research cost for the guns, as well as for the Object 704, but still, it's a gun, it's the troll cannon. Well, it's not exactly troll if you have a good crew, but still, it's a symbol, it's a characteristic of a tank, and you took away the freaking penetration. How else am I going to contribute to shooting against Mäuschen? Have to spend gold? You asshats. So I hate this decision. You're touching a vehicle that should not be touched, alright? The ISU-152 is 14. Stop touching it, alright? You sicko. Now on to the Object 704. They added the new cannon to help you research the BL-10 now, if you don't already research the BL-10, but they reduced the cost of researching the Object 268, so that's good, by 60,000 XP, 62,000 XP, which is quite chunky. That's like a high tier research of a elite gun or upgraded gun, so yeah, pretty hefty. And for the Object 268, they buffed the gun angles similar to the 704. So originally it was +6, -6, so 6 degrees to each side, which is even more limiting than the +8, -8 on the ISU. So now it's similar, the +11, -11, like the Object 704. So that's good. Also, shell velocity got buffed, 760 meters per second to 950. So originally, one of the biggest problem for the Object 268 is the shell velocity was super slow. It was like playing a tier 3 trying to shoot a derpy 76mm or 75mm across the map with that slow ass shell velocity. So 950 is not good, but it's not bad. It's average. Whereas 760, that's bad. That's really bad. So preferably it would be like 1,200 meters per second, but it's a stubby gun. It's a short barrel gun, so unless they have a lot of propellant for the shell velocity is not that high. So but here are the new gun choices for the ISU. So freaking BL10 got nerfed, sons of bitches. I hate it. I really hate it. Now let's move on to the French. So the French has a few interesting changes, but for the AMX 1375, the stock 75mm got an ammo count increase from 42 to 44. And this is because it's a 4-round autoloading clip. 42 does not divide by 4 evenly. So in the end, you'll have 2 rounds in the clip, and you thought, I did not reload the gun manually, so I empty all the clip. Why do I have only 2 rounds? So, mathematical error. I find that super funny. Facepalm failure. But for the Bat.Châtillon, the 100mm upgraded gun received an ammo count buff, a large ammo count buff of 12 rounds. So 30 rounds to 42. This is a huge ass buff. Originally, one of my gripes with the Bat.Châtillon AP against the original Lorraine 40T was that it has no rounds, it has no ammo. So similar to the Bat.Châtillon at tier 10 with only 30 rounds, but it has less alpha. So the potential damage is even less than the Bat.Chat at tier 10. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Also, you get the same stuff with the Bat.Châtillon, so increase in the ammo to help you grind with 105. And there's no actual change to the Bat.Châtillon. So a lot of players got pissed off that the Bat.Chat has only 100mm. Bullcrap. So yeah, thank God. Complain, rabble, but it still gets a HD remodel. And what's interesting about this is the original Bat.Chat has space armor at the sides for the mud skirts, the mud guards, and the boxes in the back. So now you can see that it's more uniform for the armor, but for the side armor, here is the toolbox and the mud guards. But now it's considered as normal armor, and the tracks are not as pervasive or evenly spread covering the side armor as before. So before, it's like gigantic block of space armor, and if you get shot by E100's high explosive anti-tank shell or Russian medium's high explosive anti-tank shell, it actually throws them because this will negate the shape charge. Now it's actual regular armor and not as consistent with the tracks. So I mean, you're asking a little bit too much, but still you could bounce a few shots, but it's a Bat.Chat. Bat.Chats are not known for bouncing shots, so what am I complaining about? I don't know, but hey, it's the Bat.Chat HD model. But funny enough, there are a lot of modders who do HD models of vehicles, so I don't need your World of Tanks or Wargaming made HD model. I can just download the skin and there you go, boom. So yeah, originally for the they decided to revise the reduction of the 100mm, so they took away the 105 and put a 100mm with like 6-round clip and a bunch of village bullshit. Screw that noise, screw it. So here is the original stats. Bull crappy, so they nerf the penetration slightly, nerf the alpha obviously, and takes faster to reload, but has less potential damage per clip and a lot slower shell velocity. So I did not like it. I did not. So remove that crap. Alright, on to the AMX 30 series. AMX 30 first prototype, AMX 30A, but they buffed the dispersion, they buff the DPM, but they nerfed the accuracy. So here you can see that they buffed the DPM right here, by 1.2 seconds from the reload. That's pretty huge, but the accuracy got changed from 0.33 to 0.37. They buffed the turret armor, mostly the mantlet, and they nerfed the penetration from 260 to 248, as well as the gold shell. Why? So for the AMX 30 series, they have become mostly like a STB, I guess. I mean, you have crappy accuracy, but you have faster DPM, I guess, or more DPM. So you can bounce a few shots from the mantlet, obviously, but you still have a gigantic cupola for the commander, and the turret cheeks are pretty weak-ish. So mostly the mantlet is buffed. Oh well, but here are the collision models. So turret cheek, 80mm. Yep, that's the weak spot, as well as the mantlet itself. But now, with the new model, the mantlet is about 200mm to 260 at the center. You still have a crappy cupola, and the frontal hull is also garbage. But you could bounce a few shots, unaimed shots, into your mantlet, but that's pretty much it. You have more DPM. It's not as accurate. I don't know. So, another look at the collision model. So, surprisingly, the cupola got buffed, but 100mm is not much. Not nearly enough. So, yeah. And moving on to the AMX 30B at tier 10. So, dispersion got buffed. Penetration got nerfed. Aim time got buffed. Reload time got buffed. Accuracy got nerfed. Where's the accuracy nerf? Or did they not nerf? Oh, there it is. What am I talking about? 0.3 to 0.36. So basically, the French STB1 at tier 10. With a little bit more reliable mantlet, but you have a bigger tumor on the cupola. The STB does not have a gigantic ass cupola. So it's like looking at the Type 61 giant ass cupola, but you have a stronger mantlet at the cost of accuracy, but you do have a lot of DPM. So what is the flavor now of French medium tanks? So originally these are comparable to the Leopard 1s, but a lot of players would just play the Leopard 1 because better accuracy, better gun depression, better handling of the gun. Now it's like comparing it to the Japanese medium tanks. What's next? Comparing to the Chinese or the British? Mostly the British, but no flavor. There's no flavor anymore. So moving on with the armor. So here you can see 80mm for the cheeks, 30 for the commander cupola tumor. So, but now it's 100mm for the turret. Does not save you. Mantlet is about 240 to 300, but the cheeks are still pretty weak. So shoot the weak spot, obviously. So if it doesn't have the weak spot, it will be pretty decent. But if it doesn't have the weak spot, it becomes the British vehicles or the American vehicles. Hull down, gun depression, not as good accuracy like the Americans, but I don't know. I don't know anymore. So AMX 5100 received a gun depression buff from 6 degrees to 9 degrees for all the guns. That's pretty huge. 6 degrees to 9. That's 50% increase. That's a lot. So it's like a Russian tank to a American tank. Yeah, that's pretty huge. Especially for vehicles without armor. They need all the help they can get. So, nice. And moving on to the AMX tank destroyers. So what they're going to do is they're going to remove the Foch 155 from tier 10. So if you already have the Foch 155, you will receive it as a special vehicle at tier 10, but you'll also get the Foch bis or Foch B, the AMX 50B at tier 10. So what's the difference is the gun, mostly. The Foch 155 has an auto-loading 155. The stats remain mostly the same for the gun, but gets better gun depression gun angles, gun elevation, and side armor for the hull. But for the 120mm, as for the AMX 50 Foch B, so it's only a difference of the gun. One is auto-loading 155, one is auto-loading 120. The auto-loading 120 is the normal tank called Foch B, AMX 50B, Foch B, but that's the biggest difference. So, I mean, why not just have two guns for one vehicle and merge the 155 with 120, but I don't know. But mostly for all the tank destroyers, the French tank destroyers, starting at tier 8 to tier 10, they will be using a 120 with the auto-loading clip. So it gets a little bit better per tier. So a little bit more rounds per tier, better accuracy, better reload, better aim time, or better armor for the hull as well, but it's the same gun with the same penetration. 257 at tier 8 is great for a TD. It's not so great for a tier 10, so I don't know. I mean, it is questionable. So let's take a look. Why not? So here is the Foch B. So it has 257mm of pen, 6-round clip, takes 2 seconds between each shell, so potential damage of 2,400 per shot, but it's 257mm of pen, so unless you're shooting gold with this thing, 325mm of pen with APCR, I think you will struggle to pin like Mäuschen or Type 5. I mean, it's good against medium tanks or vehicles without armor, like light tanks or armorless tank destroyers, but most vehicles at tier 10 has some armor, and turret armor will bounce your shots. So what I think is, this vehicle is a gold spamming delight. A paradise for gold spammers, because hell, you have 2,400 damage potential burst from a clip. If it's mitigated by gold shells, Waffenträger off E100, so accuracy, Waffenträger off E100, we're getting back there, but it's the penetration mostly. So I think this will be a gold spammer's delight, but same goes for the AMX AC model 1948. It's good, penetration is good at tier 8, but it takes a little bit longer, only 3-round clip, so tier 8's good, tier 9 is decent, tier 10 is spamming gold, so that's what I think. But it's getting to the Waffenträger off E100 with 128 6-round clip originally, 279mm of pin, 560 alpha. You one-shot Mäuschen spamming gold with that thing, but you have to carefully balance autoloaders with gold shells, but this is a tough one. So yeah, the AMX 50 Foch B, it's like the VK7201K to the Panzerkampfwagen Mark 7, so I mean, you're getting it as a free vehicle if you already have it. If you don't, it becomes a legacy vehicle. So like the, I don't know, what legacy vehicle becomes premium or special? FE4202, but it's not at tier 8. Waffenträger off E100 scares me, especially with gold shell. Please, no. Please, daddy, no. Ugh. So, let's take a look at the side armor. They buffed the side armor, 40mm to 80. So, high explosive will no longer pin most of the time. That's good, but still pins your ass. Alright. And here are the main stats for the Foch B. So, DPM is, yeah, pretty high. Spamming APCR shells. Accuracy 0.326, not bad. Gun depression of 6 degrees, elevation of 20. No, it's not 20, it's about Where's the elevation? 18. So yeah, not bad gun angles. Relatively mobile with pretty decent horsepower per ton ratio. Terrain resistance, not as good, but hey, you're just camping with pretty decent camouflage rating. And it has armor. It's the same hull at the front as the 155, but better side armor. So yeah, I think this is a gold spamming delight, but it's at tier 10, so be prepared to spend a lot of gold. Otherwise, you're using 258 or 257 millimeters of pen. So it's a decent pen for tier 8. It's a okay pen for tier 9. Garbage for tier 10, especially for tank destroyers at tier 10. It's alright for a heavy tank. It's alright for medium. It's garbage for a tank destroyer. So they buffed the side armor of tier 9 as well as tier 8. So no longer you'll be penned by high explosive most of the time. And that's pretty nice. So yeah, back to the bat chat. So would I consider you grind the bathtub or the ARL V39? Ugh. I give up on the French TDs at tier 4. I thought they look ugly. They have crappy gun angles. Basically, you have to really turn the hull to move the gun. It's not always accurate. They have long aim time. So they have good penetration, but you cannot aim the gun. So it's up to you, but there goes the French vehicles. So let's move on to the Germans. So Germans only get a nerf for the mouse, a slight buff without actual stats for the Mäuschen, the Mäuschen, but for the mouse, they nerfed the health, thank God, and nerfed the DPM. So this has become one of the most noob-friendly heavy tanks at tier 10. You just show up and take hits and spam gold shell against everything. That's all I see. You don't need gold shell against medium tank. Nope, spam gold. So yeah, nerf the DPM please. But they nerfed the belly armor. So originally it's 250 for the bottom of the hull. Now it's 50. So if you flip this vehicle over, you can pin the belly, whereas originally you cannot. Funny enough, but it's small nerf, very small. They buffed the mobility of the Mäuschen, the Mäuschen, with unknown terrain resistant buff, so unknown, and they buffed the Jagdtiger 88 by the dispersion on traverse and movement of the hull, and they buffed the hull traverse by 4 degrees per second. So that's pretty nice. Moving on to the Americans. So we have a armor buff for the M46 Patton. Originally it was about 150-ish average for the slope turret front. Now it's about 230. That's amazing. That's like almost 50% or 100%. That's a lot. So 115 to 210. That's a lot. And it has a small cupola. It has 10 degrees gun depression. It has the best DPM if you're not considering the E50's 88mm, but you cannot penetrate STRVs, S1s with the 88, so use the 105. But for this vehicle, it has raw DPM and alpha for the gun. And now it has turret armor and the gun depression and dispersion, so you can shoot this thing on the move like none other. That's pretty nice. So taking a look at the armor values, so here are the new ones, but 216 for the turret front, 178, 216 for this little strip, and it's rounded, and the mantlet is pretty trollish. That's pretty good. Originally it's 102. What? That's it? 102 to like 216, 178 rounded. That's a big difference. Holy crap. And the M48 Patton received a new model for the cupola as well as the turret. So here is the M1 cupola, and here is the Israeli designed Erden or Yurden turret. or cupola, but it's a lot smaller than the M1 cupola because they thought we don't need the 30 caliber for the commander. It's superfluous. You can have the machine gun on the outside, and that would be it. So yeah, looks a little bit more closer to the M60 Patton, but why don't we just have the M48A1 Patton? It's been a long road, but yeah, it looks pretty decent. And they buffed the armor, so now it's 250 to 330 millimeters effective. What? I mean, it is a strong turret on some parts, but it's not reliable. It's inconsistent. But now it's 250 to 330. Jesus Christ! So here is the old model with the M1 cupola, but it's 178 for the front of the cheeks of the turret. Now it's 254. Holy crap! And the cupola is smaller. It's not as strong, but hell, you'll penetrate the cupola originally, so being weaker does not mean a big difference, but being smaller, that's pretty big deal. And it has the gun depression, so you can hide this thing. So that's pretty huge. 254. So you can actually go haul down now, and it will be worthwhile to do so, and you'll be a lot safer doing so. Side armor, garbage. Rear armor, garbage. So yeah, American tanks, British tank, side armor's always garbage. Side armor's always garbage. So blah. Don't even depend on side armor. Don't even depend on the side armor. But what's also interesting is they removed the 90mm and 105 from the M46, so you don't have to stock grind this vehicle now with the M46 Patton's gun, because you have to research the 105, the elite gun on this vehicle. It's one of those obscure tier 10s that requires grinding, like the E100 or the Bat.Châtillon. So yeah, that's pretty nice now. Alright, moving on to the Japanese. So basically the heavy tanks, the super heavy tanks. But for the OI experimental, they buffed the armor. They removed the 100mm because this 100mm was devastating to tier 4s and originally to tier 3s, but tier 3s no longer see tier 5s, but still it's super devastating to tier 4s, like a Matilda. You see this vehicle, you're like, oh shit. Like one shot, like it's like 75% your health or 80% your health. It's like 300 alpha. It's just Jesus Christ. It one shots like most tank destroyers and like 90% of light tanks health at tier 4. So, but they buffed the armor, so it's still pretty decent now. So originally it was 75mm at the front. Now they buffed it to like 100mm for the middle plate. So basically Tiger 1 at tier 5. Wonderful. Ooh, but yeah, you will struggle to penetrate this thing, but it's slow. So shoot the side armor. So originally 75mm all the way around for the mini turrets as well, but now it's 100mm for the turret front, for the hull front, and 85 for the upper plate. Still 75 for the mini turrets, but this is a pretty strong armor for a tier 5 vehicle. So crushing tier 4s. For the OI, the rear armor got nerfed mostly. It's the cheeks sloping upwards. So this part was sloping upwards. It was 150, slope upwards to about 205. That was insane. So basically drive this vehicle backwards, but they nerfed it, so it's more reliable at the front now, mostly, but driving it backwards. The OI or the Japanese heavy tanks were always pretty good per tier, other than the high tiers. But that was before the 9.17 patch with the super heavies. So, alright. Hull armor and turret armor decreased at the rear, mostly. Yep, for the loading hatch as well. OI after... Oh, it's the OHO. So Originally, this was called the Mito 100 and Mito 150, and this was called the OI, and the Oni was called the OI, and the Oho was called the OI 120. So that was the original designation, but for the Oho, there's a new AP shell. Unknown stats about the shell, but okay. For the Type 4, they receive a nerf to the traverse by 5 degrees per second. So this thing turns at about 17 degrees per second with the full elite tracks. That's like turning the Tiger's turret, the Tiger 1's turret, at about 18 degrees per second. That's slow. So traverse speed got nerfed, turret traverse speed got nerfed, weak spots added for the driver hatch and the bow machine gun port for the radio operator. They drive on the wrong side of the hull. Japanese people, sure. But yeah, you can still pen these things with gold shell, so a lot of players see Japanese heavy tanks, high tier Type 4s and Type 5s, automatically switch to gold, and that's what they do. I do that too. So you can just aim this spot right here, you'll pin this spot, the cheek armor, but nope, gold shell. For the collision model, 250 at the front for the Type 4, now it's 230 for the driver hatch, and for the bow machine gun port, 240, so slightly less, but same goes for the Type 5, weaker driver hatch, weaker bow machine gun port, so reducing to still pretty hefty thickness, but 270 to 250 for the driver hatch, 260 for the radio operators, bow machine gun port. And traverse got nerfed, as well as top speed got nerfed for the OI experimental, forgot to mention, but you can push OI experimentals with medium tanks to make them go faster. Now you cannot do that anymore. Now finally, there are a few vehicles that were unlisted in this patch. So you can go to the main website and they will tell you that they are changing vehicles of Russian, French, German, American, and Japanese, but no Chinese mediums or British mediums. And that's surprising because we got info about these vehicles. So we'll take a look at the Chinese vehicles first. But here are the main changes. So it's mostly premium tanks. Sad to say, no T-34-2. Feels bad, man, but penetration got buffed for the 59 Patton. That's pretty decent. I hope they buff the turret armor similar to the M48 Patton, because it's sharing the Patton's turret. Why not just buff the turret's armor? It's not a real vehicle, it's made up. But at least buff it based on consistency. Oh well. They buffed the hull armor of the T-34-3 and the turret armor. So this thing is like the Type 59 now, in consideration of the armor values. And they buffed the aim time by a lot. 3.4 seconds to 2.9. That's huge. So it's like playing with the WZ-120 and playing with the 121. With the WZ-120, you have to use vertical stabilizer with rammer and enhanced gun lane drive to help you aim because the god-awful aim time. But with the 121, you could forego the vertical or the enhanced gun lane drive for vents. You still need vertical stabilizer, but you could use rammer, vertical stabilizer, and vents. And with a good crew, that could be shaved down to a manageable 2.5 seconds. Whereas for the T-34-3, it was the same as the WZ-120, and you need enhanced gun lane drive to ease it down to like 2.7 seconds. But now, it's better. So that's a big deal. And they buffed the armor. A lot. They buffed the hull armor, they buffed the turret armor. I'll show you the collision model, but it's pretty insane. And for the Type 59, They buffed the accuracy, buffed the aim time, and this aim time was god awful. So 2.9, oh Jesus, that's pretty huge. But let's take a look at the armor buff for the T-34-3. So here you can see originally it's 190 at the front. It's decent, but with a high caliber gun like a German 128 or a Russian 122, you'll pierce this turret at the cheeks. But now it's 260, 230, 210, 260. The T-54 has a new turret of 240, I believe, but 260 on a tier 3 with preferential matchmaking and buffs to the aim time. And this thing could use a high explosive anti-tank round with like 250mm of pin. Has preferential matchmaking. What? Oh yeah, it's a keeper now. And no more hesitation. Oh, no more regrets. No more buyer's remorse on this vehicle. Well then again, if you could buy the Object 252U or Chrysler K with gold, sure, but you can buy this thing with gold. It's not like it's pay to win. You can use your clan treasury or tournament gold or mission gold from tank rewards or any other stuff and buy this vehicle. It's worthwhile, like the STRV S1. Interesting. But side armor, 150 for the turret sides. Now it's 130. Got nerfed, but you don't really rely on the side of the turret, mostly. But they also buff the roof armor of the turret, so 30mm originally, and you can overmatch this with any caliber of gun above 90, but now it's 48, so no more overmatching. You could overmatch the hull front or hull roof at the front, but you still need a lot of gun depression to do that. But for the turret front of the roof, yeah, no more overmatch of the roof. That's good. That's pretty great. And lastly, let's move on to the British vehicles. So they did not mention this. The Chinese vehicles were not mentioned, but Action X Centurion, better turret now. A lot better turret. So it's about 240 to 270 now. That's a hell of a lot better than the 200 to 240. A hell of a lot better. And here are the collision models. So 198 originally for the old model, 86 for the roof, but now 254. That's great. And 111 for the roof. You will bounce almost all the shots if you completely gun depress with this turret. And British vehicles, high tier mediums, do require a little bit more time to help you aim the gun because of the gun handling. You do have the accuracy, but it takes a little bit of time to aim, but you could do that. You could have any time in the world to do that with 254mm of turret armor at the front. This vehicle is actually worthwhile now. And for the Centurion Mark 1 and the Mark 7-1, they buffed the crap out of the manlet and the turret cheeks. So it reminds me of the STRV-81. Super historically inaccurate, like none before. It was 152 on the cheeks. So now it's 254. This never existed in real life. It does not exist. The STRV-81's 254's turret armor does not exist. I mean, at best, it will be about 200mm. On record, there are 194mm of turret armor. Thank you, auto update. Ooh. But yeah. 54. Jesus. I mean, still, the STRV-81 has an engine buff of better horsepower than the Centurion Mark 1, but the Mark 1 has normalization for AP shell than APCR shell as default for the STRV-81, so it's still a toss-up, but now it's a little bit more competitive because 254mm of turret armor. Jesus, this is insane for Tier 8. Tier 8! I mean, unless you make the STRV-81 as a heavy tank. But that does not make sense with the consistency of medium and heavy. Okay, whatever. And finally, let's finish up with the FE1402. So they buffed the engine power to about 15.63 horsepower per ton ratio now. Pretty good. Pretty good. But now they basically buffed the armor back to the old FE4202 at tier 10. Upper plate is about 223mm effective. Turret front 240 to 270. This is a premium tier 8. Jesus Christ. You basically double double the freaking turret armor at the front. What? So 115, the weakest. Yeah, there are some parts that are pretty weak on this turret. So you can penetrate right here, or right here. But now it's 240 at the front. Similar to the T-34-3's 260 at the front, or 240, or 230. It has the gun depression, guys. Jesus. But we need 240mm for the front of this vehicle, because why not? Oh man, how do you kill this thing? It's like the Emil 1 at tier 8. It has ungodly turret armor, but now the hull armor is also pretty good. 223. It's a very well sloped 76mm. Will not be overmatched. I mean, unless you have gun depression shooting downwards into it, but it has better engine power now. So if it has the original 12.26 horsepower per ton ratio, it might be like a Chieftain per se at tier 8, but now it has better engine power. And yeah, the turret, Jesus. So will we get to see the Chieftain if it gets a engine buff? Well, if they buff the engine power from like 12 to 16 or 17 for the Chieftain, that would be great. We could see it being released next to the FE25B, but sad to say there are a few vehicles missing from this list. So IS-6, KV-5, T-34-2, Churchill gun carrier, ugh. The FE25B, it's not historically accurate, but who the hell cares anymore? Also, there were the Super Conquerors, the better turret for the Carnarvon. Also, will we get the better turret that's on the Action X Centurion move on to the Carnarvon? If the Carnarvon has this turret for the Action X Centurion, that would be pretty insane for a tier A vehicle. And yeah, with the 20-pounder, sure, I'll make it work, but it does require something. The Carnarvon needs a buff, needs some love. But nobody plays the Faturian. That's the Carnarvon, but and the Chieftain and other vehicles, etc. and etc. But there you go, folks. The long ass video of me just blabbering on about vehicles, about stuff. So don't touch vehicles that shouldn't be touched, mostly the ISU. So why the hell did they nerf the crap out of the BL-10? I have no idea, but most of the buffs are pretty nice. We don't see the actual crazy buffs on the British tanks, on the Chinese medium tanks in this patch yet. So we might see them later being reported, but for now, they're more recent than the Russian medium tanks or the IS-7 or the French medium being posted. So we could see them in the future, but hopefully for patch 9.20. So there you go, folks. Patch 9.20. All the contents, all the patch notes, all the analysis and details and tidbits I collected over these past few months. But thank you guys for watching the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. It takes like an hour now. I don't know how long the video has been going on for, but it's been like an hour. So thank you guys for staying awake and staying tuned, I guess. But I appreciate it if you leave a like. It helps me with the videos to spread, I guess, but small stuff you could do. But it took some time to translate the Russian. Holy crap, there were a lot of Russian stuff to translate. Jesus. But I'll see you guys next time. Peace.